So I'm your moderator. My name is Angeline Wairegi. I'm the program coordinator for CARTA. And we are having this webinar to really talk about mentorship, as I touched upon earlier. And this whole discussion is contextualized within the discourse that we've been having on um, research and development in Africa. So past events, primarily the pandemic, and also the changes in the funding landscape have really highlighted the need for Africa to be self-sufficient in its research and innovation work, right? We can't really rely as much as we have been on the West or even the Far East for our innovation, for our medicines, for our health technologies. We have to find a way of creating self-sufficiency within the continent and making sure that the systems and policies and frameworks we're putting into place are sustainable for the long run. So APHRC, so African Population and Health Research Center, I'm sure some of you may have heard of it, has been on this path for a while, for over 20 years. So APHRC is a Africa-based, Africa-led institution. We have footprints in over 35 countries, and our whole ethos and mission and value system is based and centered around transforming lives of Africans in Africa positively using research, right? So we believe that by generating evidence that can be used to inform decisions, by strengthening research and research-related capacity, and by engaging in informed decision-making policies with the relevant parties, we can create an Africa that is leading its own decisions around research and development, something that has not necessarily been the case for a while. I think it's getting better, but we have been in situations where we are tethered to international funding and tethered to international agendas and policies for what we really need as far as research and innovation goes in the system. So we're trying to capacity strengthen the resources and the human capital on the continent to break free of this, create, as I've said, sustainable, self-sufficient research and innovation systems on the continent. So what are some of the obstacles facing us as a continent when it comes to research and development? So I've touched a little bit on this, but I think we can categorize it under three main things: financial resources, human capital, and then infrastructure. So infrastructure including sort of physical equipment and infrastructure needed, but also policies. So as far as financial resources, very little of the GDP in, I think, all of the African countries are actually allocated to research and development. So the average is about less than 0.5% of the GDP goes into research and development, which is a far different scenario than what we have across the world, where the global average is about 2 to 3%. In terms of human capital, we have the enthusiasm, we have the skills, but sometimes we don't necessarily have the policies and the infrastructure in place to support those skills, to support people or students, faculty, support their research endeavors, support them in institutions of higher training, getting them through doctoral programs or postdocs. So we have an academic system, an academic and research institution ecosystem that is overburdened in terms of the number of students they have to teach, in terms of a curriculum that is maybe not fit for purpose in terms of what's currently needed, whether it's technology-based, whether it's health-based, and also just underfunded. So we have an underfunded system and an overworked faculty, which doesn't really help or facilitate good research capacity. Then in terms of policies, we need to look at policies and how they or facilitate environments that are conducive to research, and also how they help us retain the staff and the brains that we are developing here on the continent, and also attract some of the skill sets that have migrated elsewhere. So I'm sure we've all heard about brain drain, which is this phenomenon where the most skilled or highly qualified of we Africans migrate elsewhere, which should not be the case, right? If we can offer the greener pastures here on the continent, we can attract some of those brains back and retain the skill sets that we are building here on the continent. So in terms of research and related capacity strengthening, APHRC takes a very holistic view of this. So we look at it not only in disparate systems, but we try to take a broader view of what it takes to build a wholly functioning, self-sufficient, sustainable R&D ecosystem. And then what that means in terms of institutional capacity strengthening and what that means in terms of individual capacity strengthening. So we actually have a research and related capacity strengthening division, it's a bit of a mouthful, that has different programs under it that are tasked with looking at these three areas individually. So for example, under the ecosystem ecosystem capacity strengthening, we have programs like Catalyze or even ARSH that look at how we can help increase discourse around African research, how we can help researchers gain more grants and funding, how we can advocate for what we need on a global stage, right? If that's in case of journals or websites or things like that. Under institutional capacity strengthening, we have a program like Kata, which I'll talk about in a little bit, that is looking at training early career researchers, specifically faculty members, who in turn will use those skills to strengthen the institutions that they're in and also help build and generate a pipeline of early career researchers. And then under individual capacity strengthening, we have workshops and programs, both in online and in person, that speak to things like grant writing again, or how to write a research paper, things of that nature. So I'll touch a little bit as an example on institutional capacity strengthening. So this is pertinent for two things. Again, these are all interconnected, very interdependent research systems, right? One cannot exist without the other, and they build on each other. So under institutional capacity strengthening, we have a program, so the Consortium of Advanced Research Training in Africa, CATA, and both our experts today are alums of Kata, that is really looking to build a system of highly qualified, highly skilled African academies that are able to lead impactful research at an international level. And to do that, we have several interventions, or the program has several interventions they use, but one that is pertinent to this discussion is training of faculty members, so supporting them to get their doctoral degrees, and also supporting them after the case, or after the fact, after they attain the doctoral degrees. So as early career and mid researchers, with a mindset that when we provide these skills to these fellows, these Kata fellows, they will in turn feed it back into the system. They'll feed it back into the institutions that they're in. They'll train the next group. They'll mentor the next group of thought leaders and researchers on the continent. So Kata has been around for a while, and I really encourage you to look it up under the APHRC website. We have a number of interventions, fellowships, postdoctoral fellowships that might be of interest to you. Similar to that, and particular to this talk, is the Afrique Research Strengthening Hub, ARSH. So they are the program that convened this webinar. So Afrique I'm just going to call it ARSH. So it's a bit of a mouthful. So it's a capacity strengthening program that is really looking to build networks that can mentor and train researchers, early and mid-career researchers, specifically on the skills and knowledge that they need to successfully fundraise, and specific to that, to write successful grant proposals to win funding from international funders. So we have 3 satellites. So there is a hub in Western Central Africa, a hub in East Africa, and a hub in Southern Africa, with the Western Central Africa being bilingual in nature. So French and English is offered throughout its interventions. So in terms of what we do or what ARSH does, so it offers training, a 12-month, both or all 3 hubs, I should say, offers 12-month mentorship and training programs to early and mid-career researchers, specifically on grant writing, grant proposals, successful fundraising skill sets. So it has a number of ways of doing this. There are online courses, one which it offers a number of self-paced and also facilitated instructional training modules. And if you're interested, please click on the little QR code on the right-hand side, and it'll take you to the page, and you can look at what's offered, see what is available for registration at this particular moment, and log in. But in addition to this, it also has something that I think is very interesting, which is a peer learning element to it. So yes, you have the training, yes, you have the courses, but I think something that's often left out when it comes to capacity strengthening is the importance of the peer learning and mentoring aspects of education. And again, this is why we're here today. So ARSH also offers a community of practice. And then community of practice, you have webinars offered to the public, but you also have platforms and sessions where you can learn from each other, where you can mentor one another. And again, if that's something of interest, please scan the QR code and it'll take you to the page where you can access the community of practice. And again, this is a community of practice for research and grant writing. All right, so I do not want to take too much time. I do not want to eat into our fruitful discussion. So today we are joined by 2 experts in their fields, and also 2 fellows and who've been through 2 Carter fellows who've been on the side of mentoring and receiving mentorship. So they're here to talk a little bit about what their lived experience is, why they think mentorship is important, whether they would do it again, or whether it was all a waste of time. So to discuss, to lead our conversations, or to lead us through this conversation, we have Dr. Charles Cato. So Dr. Charles Cato is a senior lecturer of microbiology at Makerere University. He has over a decade of experience looking at infectious diseases, zoonotic diseases, and he has been both a mentor and a mentee. And he mentioned he's undertaken a lot of mentorship, so he can speak to why he thinks that is an important aspect, of his research career. And then we have Dr. Christine Bindio. She is a lecturer at the University of Nairobi Veterinary Medicine, School of Veterinary Medicine. She's also a Kata alum, and she is currently undergoing her postdoctoral fellowship, and was actually mentored by Dr. Cato. So it'll be interesting to get perspectives from both sides of that experience. So welcome, and I hope you are ready for an engaging talk, Dr. Mbindio and Dr. Cato. So if you give me 1 minute, let me stop sharing my screen. So before we begin, Dr. Kato, would you like to give us a brief overview of who you are, what your accomplishments are? I'm pretty sure I did not fully expound on what you have achieved. And then Dr. Kristen, if you could do that as well, and then we'll jump right into the questions. So Dr. Kato, over to you.
Thank you, Angeline, and thank you, the audience, for giving us time. Yes, this is Charles Kato. I work with Makerere University, and I'm also the head of department for a department called Biomedical Laboratory Technology and Molecular Biology. My expertise is in clinical immunology and population genetics. I'm working on diagnostics. For example, I'm moving from the lab and taking it right to manufacturing. So I'm trying to develop labs in the country, for example, in Uganda, to develop diagnostics and vaccines so that we can push Africa towards the industrialization of these products. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kato. Dr. Mbindio, over to you.
Thank you very much. My name is Christine Binjo. I work for the University of Nairobi. I'm a lecturer and a Kata alumni. I was in cohort 8. Currently, I am finishing my postdoc with the same and Akata still. And I'm really excited to be here. My background is in veterinary microbiology, but most of the time my work revolves around One Health, HMR, and zoonotic pathogens. And I'm really excited to share my experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you. I always feel it's better to let individuals introduce themselves. You know yourself better than I do. So let us move to the first question. So Dr. Kato, this is for you. What motivated you to take on a mentorship role? And how did you approach mentoring early or mid-career researchers?
Yes, thank you. I think I'll begin with talking about how my journey has been. I remember when I joined academia as a teaching assistant in the university, I used to see what they call group leaders or independent researchers, individuals who are heading their consortiums and they are attracting a lot of grant funding and running teams supporting other junior scientists also to progress through their careers. So straight away, I knew that this is what I wanted to be. And I'm happy to say that at this level, I'm now an independent researcher and I'm already at that level, having my own research team, having my own laboratories that I run, and also supporting a number of students, right from undergraduate to MSc to PhD to postdoc, and also fellow staff as a member of as a head of department. So my motivation, I think, to become a mentor started as looking at this how, as if in our African institutions, we look to be orphaned, so that you don't have anyone to look up to. Wherever you try, maybe you have a supervisor here and there. The supervisor looks to be hard on you, and so you need someone to talk to, which the supervisor could not totally. Maybe it is different from what the supervisor is doing. You need the support here and there. So I said that I know when I reach at this level, maybe I want to do something like this. So when I was in the Kata program, which Angelina said is hosted under EPHRC, I had the opportunity to have several facilitators right from Africa, and Kata identified those facilitators were on top of their game in Africa and also in Europe. So I looked at how they are doing things and how they are taking us through. Then I said, this is what I want to do to support my other scientists in Africa. Then immediately, of course, after finishing this, as I also became a facilitator, and I was supporting again PhDs, and I'm supporting postdocs, and I'm happy to see that I'm making contributing to their research careers and moving them forward. And I think that that is a big motivation. Also, we had during the Kata program, we had Professor Peter Angure. By that time, I think it was the Kata focal person who was guiding the fellows. I was a fellow at that time. And the way Peter Angure would identify talent, he would look at what you need, he would look at your needs and encourage you right from the beginning. He would identify opportunities and says, Kato, this opportunity is for you. Don't let it go. Even when you knew you couldn't get that opportunity, but it would encourage you to go for it. Then when you go for it and actually you'll get it. So that's how I knew that actually we need a mentorship, even beyond the supervision. So thank you. That was my motivation for that. Over to you,
Thank
Angela.
you. So, Dr. Mbindio, let's have you talk about the same thing, but on the other side of the coin. So, I'm sure you've received mentorship throughout your doctorate program, and specifically, Dr. Keto was actually a mentor of yours. So, in terms of your journey to being a mentee, what was the motivation for that, and what did you hope to achieve with a mentorship relationship?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I think for me, when I met Kato, Dr. Kato was way back in 2018 when I was doing my PhD. And it was during our JAS 1. So Kato has these joint advanced seminars where they take all the fellows during the different years. So that was the first one. And one of the things that I was struggling with was to identify my research gap. I had a proposal complete, but I was struggling to identify the research gap. So Kato was one of the facilitators, as I said, and I remember he was facilitating, he was sharing a lot of information, a lot of experience, and him being in my field, I felt like he had a lot to contribute in my proposal at that time. So I reached out to him, and during that time, I just had one agenda to get my research gap. So our initial conversation was around the research gap, but we continued that interacting. I finished my PhD. And then after that, we started looking at how can I progress in my career. So he has mentored me in different capacities, but our initial meetup was for my PhD to identify a research gap, which I finally identified through his mentorship. Finished, of course, my PhD together with my supervisors. Then after I finished my PhD, then I was looking at how do you grow from here? And I think part of his mentorship was to apply for the postdoc. And Kata, of course, announced the postdocs and he encouraged me to apply as well. And they were looking at having an internal mentor and an external mentor. So when I saw that, I reached out to my already existing mentor to support me with the application and also to mentor me how to implement it as well. So that was our engagement. And of course, a lot of in-betweens we've had, a lot of a conversation about career progression and balanced life. So yeah, that has been my experience.
Thank you for that. So, Dr. Kato, I'll come back to you. So, mentoring cannot be a one size fits all because researchers are not, one size fits all. So, as you have progressed through your mentorship journey, how have you tailored mentoring to different individuals and different needs? And have you noticed a significant difference in how you need to mentor early career researchers, maybe those just fresh out of their postdoc or their doctoral program, versus mid-career researchers?
Yes, thank you, Angeline. Yes, you have hit it right. Mentorship is not one size fits all. There are different needs for different, even within the same level. You might find that you have PhD or postdocs, but all of them have different needs, right from some issues we have, for example, in Qatar, we have what we call work-life balance. Because if someone doesn't have well balanced, maybe there some of us, most of us are working when we are doing PhDs, even when you are doing postdocs, when you are doing research, even faculty themselves, you are working somewhere. Then you need to find ways of how you balance your work activities. Then how you are going to balance research, which is one of the key issues. I remember when I first took Christine on, one of her issues was that she had issues of balancing work and the research and the supervision. She had the several students she was supervising, and the department was adding on more. She was supposed to do a postdoc, and things didn't show. She was stressed at that angle, and that one means that then you need to find ways of how you need to navigate that, and early career science will need support on that. Then also, I remember, like, for example, again, in Qatar, we have what we call the professional development plan. Before you start at any level, for example, be it MSc, PhD, postdoc, I think you need to define the professional development plan. This is a plan. For example, what you do is when someone is beginning their PhD, they need to plan their journey. If the PhD is for 3 or 4 years, then they need to have steps of how they are going to achieve their doctoral training within those specified time of maybe 3 years or 4 years. If they don't have a well-sound professional development plan, then they are going to overstay on the program. The same applies on for the postdocs. And learners need to be guided right from the beginning. For example, identifying the challenges they have. And in most cases, there is what we call the GROW approach, what we call the GROW mentorship approach. GROW is, the G means the goal. And what this one means, for example, when I first meet my mentee, the first time I meet with you, then I would want to ask you what your goals are. For example, goals, you mean that what do you want to achieve for this? And also I would ask them to tell me what would success look like according to them. Where have they come to me for mentorship? And where are they doing for this and this? For example, of course, there are mentorship programs which can do. One of them is the Kata approach, where I'm on. Then there is another one, which is Mawazo Institute, where I'm also a mentor there. Then there was another one for MUI Plus, Makerere University Infection and Immunity, which I was also a mentor before. So some of them have these goals before, but most cases you have also those mentees that just identify you. For example, you talk to someone, you give a talk somewhere, someone says, I want you to be my mentor, something like that. So here you need to identify the goals clearly and what success looks to. Then also when you go to the R in the GROW, that is the reality. Of course, there's one way of having these goals and dreams, but sometimes bringing this to reality may not be possible. So in reality, I talk about the strength. What is someone's strength? What experience do they have in what they want to do? Then also they need to discuss their challenges at every level. What challenges do you have? Challenges of a postdoc may not be the same as those of a PhD student or of a MS student. Then also availability of resources. Sometimes we come in when, for example, doctoral students, when they don't have the resources to do the program, then you need to encourage them how they are going to look for opportunities. Like I talked about how at the Kata program, they share with you these grant calls that are available. Then you encourage them how to apply, which grant fits for you. How can you handle this? How do you apply for this one? So all those ones come in the reality. Then, of course, in the option, the other O in the GROW, the option component, is what ideas do they have, where to start from, and how do me as a mentor, how do I fit in? Because sometimes if I see that I am not fitting in any way, then it seems that the mentorship won't work. Because that is one of the failures of how mentee mentorship programs may not work, because the mentor may not see how it fits in within the program. Then, of course, the last one, the W within the GROW, is the will or the way forward. Then there, I request the mentee to develop a concrete plan of how we are going to progress. Then we would have, of course, meetings to discuss the plan. Then also set timelines and also measures of accountability. How are we going to measure success? And how are we going to define our time to move on forward? Over to you, Angeline.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. That was so comprehensive and detailed. So I would like to approach the next question to Dr. Mbindio, but in a little bit of a different manner. So I'd like you to imagine that you want to build a mentorship program and you need funding for this mentorship program, right? So you go to the Gates and the Welcomes and the Hewlett Foundations to look for funding. You, as an individual who's been a mentee and gone through a mentorship relationship, what are the skills, knowledge, and values you would highlight as the benefit of this program to acquire your funding?
Okay. Thank you very much as well. I think for me, and I'll share my personal experience, it was to look for funding for mentorship programs. One of the things that really mentorship has helped me gain is the confidence to go for challenging opportunities. Just like Kato has said, most of the time he'll tell you, this is for you, apply. Ideally, without the mentorship, probably sometimes you'll be like, oh, this doesn't look like my thing, or it's too far-fetched, you might not apply. But through mentorship, they build confidence. And I think the other part of the mentorship is just like feeling like you have support. You have support from your mentors. People are cheering on for you. So even if I don't get it, I have a fallback plan where I'll go and talk to my mentors and we'll navigate this as well. So part of it is just encouraging you to take bigger opportunities, more risks, and expanded mindsets when it comes to your career progression. One of them will be grants, it will be job opportunities, it will be consultancies, many things that come into your career. So I think mentorship for me has helped me in that aspect, expansion of my mindset, and also encouraging me to take more risks when it comes to opportunities. Number two is balance. Well, we are all working. I saw some quote that was saying, if you find it, let us know. I haven't found it fully, but I think through mentorship, and especially for my postdoc, because once you finish your PhD, the department and the institutions are very happy to have you back finally, with more skills, fresh from everywhere. So you're really equipped with knowledge and all that. So the expectations are a lot more from your end. So most of the time you start supervising students, you start being transitioning from more structured training to independent research. So you're in that space where you're trying to still probably, if you have a family, your friends that you had left for many years, they're looking for you. So it's a lot of things that can be overwhelming at the same time. So through mentorship, and I'm happy for my postdoc, during the postdoctoral program, we had a structured mentorship. And this structured mentorship, Dr. Charles was one of the people who was there. And what we did is just the mentee just list everything that they need to be mentored on. And I remember the way I said, one of the things I was struggling was just balancing all those things. So through this mentorship program, I was able to be trained on prioritization. What is the most important thing that you need to do today? Time management. How do you effectively manage your time so that you prioritize the things that matter and the things that you're supposed to do are done on time? The other thing is just setting out goals that are palatable. Because most of the time we set a lot of things that overwhelm us and then we don't achieve them. So setting realistic goals, time management, prioritizing what is the most important thing, delegating some of the work that could be done by maybe your students who are under you, maybe PhD, MSc students that are under you. That has really helped. And I learned that through the mentorship program with Dr. Kato and the other mentors who are there. The last one was leadership. Previously, I mean, when it comes to applying grants, I wouldn't want to be a PI. I want to be co-PI. I want to be co-PI and others. But I think through the mentorship, I was able to take up grants actually, and some of them we've won, others we've not won, but I'm happy to say that I've been mentored and I am a PI of at least 2 grants, which we are managing very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was great. I would absolutely fund you for that mentorship program. And I think what you spoke to really highlights how mentorship is actually feeding into institutional capacity strengthening and ultimately into building a stronger research and development ecosystem on the continent. So I think with that in mind, Dr. Kato, I'd like you to speak about peer-to-peer learning in 2 ways. One, as it pertains to mentorship, but also outside of that environment. You pointed out that you're a supervisor, you're a director of a research hub. Within those 2 environments, how do you encourage peer-to-peer learning? What is the importance, or do you think there's value to peer-to-peer learning? And what have you seen as the challenges to that and also the opportunities surrounding that? So Dr. Kato, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Angeli, for this. Yes, peer-to-peer learning is key for progress, because sometimes when you look at colleagues who are more experienced than you, sometimes as an African culture, we tend to give respect, and sometimes respect in Africa shows that you know where to stop, and you may not go even if you want to ask someone what you don't know, it becomes hard for you because you may think that is a respect and you fear to go and get what you want. But sometimes we learn more from our peers because we feel we can communicate freely, and you can get whatever you want easily. For example, I gave an example that, yes, you said I'm a director of a research hub, but then I'm also, I have labs that I'm running to. Then I also have staff that are looking onto me, things like that. And at every level, I have in the labs and the hub, we have students right from undergraduate to MSc to PhD to postdocs. And sometimes we may not have the time as faculty to make sure that we provide whatever these different categories require. One of the biggest challenges of mentorship is that the mentors are not common. They are fewer. You'll get more students than you'll have. For example, if I give an example of Makerere University, Now we have a few staff members, and we are getting over 600 PhD applicants that require to do PhDs. So the university is overwhelmed, and we may not have support to supervise them or mentor them. But when you have that approaches that can come in, for example, the peer learning, then it becomes a better alternative. How do I do this? First, I think before any of the learners comes to me, I encourage them to consult with colleagues, and so that their colleagues I tell them that if you cannot write, if your colleague cannot read what you have written or understand it, for example, that one is also common in Kata, then it means that no one can understand it. So you first share whatever you have written with your colleague, even if your colleague is in a different discipline, they should be able to understand. Even if someone is in engineering and you are in education, you are in medicine, there's nothing as hard as saying that, no, me, I'm in different discipline and you cannot understand my language. If the language cannot be understood by another person, then it means no one will understand it, because now science and research is supposed to be for the general public out there. That's why even most journals think they ask for that you need to present an expert abstract and a lay person's abstract, which they can understand. So that's what I said, that whatever you are writing needs to be understood. So even when we are having presentations and meetings, what I do is I don't encourage the first status to come in. That's also common in Kata training. The first status come in late. You first allow the peers to interact with the presenter or to guide the presenter. Then after they have provided their feedback, then that's where the facilitator comes in to give you overall feedback, because that is how the peers would learn from each other, and they have the confidence that they have contributed to someone's understanding of how their journeys and their careers are supposed to be shaped. Over to you, Angeline.
Thank you for that. That was really informative. So, Dr. Christine, let's maybe take a little bit of a tangent. We have over 200, well, less than 200, not over, less than 200 participants, and I'm sure some of them are in somewhat on the same trajectory as you are. They did their PhD, maybe they've completed their postdoc, maybe they're still going through their postdoc, they're in that first rung of academia, I might say, so as a lecturer or, moving on to a mid-level lecturer. But for you, as an early career researcher, what have been some of the challenges that you've faced? I think you can speak to it as broadly or as in-depth as you would like. And then from that, how has mentorship really helped you navigate those challenges?
Thank you very much, Angeline. I think for me, and probably speaking for my colleagues that I've worked with in my space, once you finish your PhD, I think the first reaction it's an anticlimax. So, and my colleague, I mean, when we share with my peers, they're like, yeah, they felt the same. So I'm sure this is a mutual feeling. And you return back, for example, from the 4 years of your academics, and you're like, okay, where do I start? And it's always a common question that really lingers for a long time. And some people go through a very difficult phase before they rise again. So for me, I think I'd taken a year's break after I finished. I was like, okay, fine, I'm taking a break for a year. I don't want to see anything that looks like research near me, just to recover from my PhD experience, which was good and all that. But I think we had given ourselves, me and my colleague, actually, there's a colleague of mine who we were in the same program and gone through the same experiences. So we took a year from writing, and then after that, we're like, okay, fine, now we feel better, we can come back and write. And I'm sure it's common for most of the African countries because it's a lot of work to do a PhD and complete on time. So after that is, so one of the things that we found ourselves in the same space without direction. At that point, even your supervisor is not looking for you. I mean, you're done. So it's time for you to transition to either early career or look at postdoc or just become an independent researcher. So there's a gap actually for most African institutions where you find that if you're not mentored, then you get lost. You may not publish again for the next 5 years, or you may never write a grant again for the next, I don't know how long. So for me, mentorship really helped me to remain it. So I remember talking to Kato and other mentors, of course. And then one of the things we and my peers, actually, we agreed, let's form a research team. let's start writing, not as independent people, because writing alone is hard. Let's start writing from our point as a group. And we came together, like 3 of us who were in the same space, and started writing, applying very small fellowships. And I think from that we've grown, and that really helped us to just not write alone and be alone, but be in a team of people with the same mindset in the same space where you can share your experiences and just start from there. So through the mentorship, I was able to not isolate myself, but know that I need to find people in my institution, because it's also easier to work with people who are within your institution, to join hands and start working together as a team. And that has really helped us as early careers find a footing and start applying for grants and opportunities together. That was one. The other thing is just looking for money. I mean, once you finish, then you need to look for research funding, which is one of the things that our institution, most of the time, they don't have internal source funding, so you have to apply for external grants. So for us, we were lucky, especially those who've gone through the Qatar Fellowship. We usually have the graduate workshop that really helped us actually just to know how to apply for grants, where to look for them, and you meet your peers as well during that time and form collaboration and networks that really support you even after the Qatar PhD Fellowship. So that's also really helped us form teams and even know where do we find the funding. And apart from that, we are trained on how to write grants, because I feel like once you finish your PhD, you're trained on your PhD, but now you need to be an independent researcher looking for your own funding. So for us, the graduate workshop, the Qatar Fellow, the Qatar program really supported us to go through that. And that really helped me when I was applying for my first fellowship grants that we got. We used those skills and were able to successfully get it using those skills from the graduate workshop.
Thanks,
Over to
Christine.
you, Angelina.
Thank you so much for that. I want to build on what you said, and I will ask Kato to answer the next question. But I think you touched on something really important and I think universal that we don't really discuss that much, and it is the burnout you experience after a PhD. Because I know I was sick of everything. I was sick of the research, I was sick of the science, I was sick of my office, I was even sick of the computer with just how many hours I'd spent on there. So Dr. Kato, I'd like you to speak on the type of mentorship programs that are needed for early career researchers who are, one, experiencing burnout from their PhD program, or are just finishing their postdoctoral or trying to get into the postdoctoral work, and they're really unsure on what trajectory they need to take to advance their career. And also, in addition to that, something that you spoke about, Dr. Mbindio, also is the inexperience that you have and the limited portfolio, I should say, when you're trying to apply for grants and to attract money, because you usually need something behind you to get those funds. So in terms of mentorship, Dr. Kato, what is needed to help with the burnout, help guide the trajectory of early career researchers, and what do we do about this limited portfolio that they have when they're looking at things like research grants or setting up research groups or projects?
Yes, thank you. I think you have talked about that burnout. It's the most common burnout, even at most of the institutions in Africa. Once someone has completed a PhD, they try to write 1 or 2 grants or 3, then they get negative feedback. Once you get negative feedback for several of these calls that you have applied for, then they get burnout and they take other. Someone maybe goes and looks for other opportunities. He says, no, I'm going to remain in teaching, or I can supplement my living with a business, or I can do this and this. So that's why we need the momentum. And one of the momentum for this is, for example, the postdocs and the CD grants that early career scientists can apply for. But most of these also, they don't come easily. One of the things that institutions need to put up to encourage these early careers is to establish or to get a digest. For example, here at Makerere, if you look at the School of Public Health, every month they have a monthly digest of research grants that they put in Excel and they are shared to the faculty. So someone then can look through and see what grant meets them. Because also you cannot win a grant without looking for grants. But also looking for the grants is something that is not easy because you don't know, you cannot be subscribed to all different research engines here and there. But if you have an organized institution that is doing it for you, then this one would simplify the life. So one of the institutions need to make sure that they have grant officers and they have someone who can be able to identify these grants for the different early career scientists. Then the other issue is also we need to establish mentorship programs. For example, for the one you have under ARSH, then under Kata, I've seen several of them, then under Mawazo, because these mentorship programs also open up. For example, some things that you may not know, skills that you might have missed. For example, I remember Christine asking that, hey, now I have this grant, how do you think about it? Then we first look at it and say, yeah, this one fits you. Then now she can go ahead to apply for that. So this one can only be done when you have a good mentor that can work with you. For example, I remember last week I had a student from Nigeria that was applying for an NIH grant, and this one was also another way of us twinning together as a mentor and a mentee so that we can submit this grant on time. So those are some of the things that you can pull through. Then the other issue that you can have is, for example, if you look at the Research Hub, the Emerging and Re-Emerging Infectious Disease Research Hub that I lead, that is TERID. We have established a curriculum whereby we are going to train early careers on how to write grants. But you're not only going to train them on how to write grants, but you're going to use active grants. If there is an active grant, for example, from Wellcome Trust, then we are going to send out a training call. Then we shall put these, in groups, maybe 4 groups, depending on the number that you have taken on. Then we shall guide them. We shall have senior researchers. Then we shall have intermediate and the early careers. They would write in line with the Wellcome Trust grant or NIH or something. Then in the end, it's not only training to get a certificate, but in the end, each group is going to submit the grant that they have applied for. So that one, they are going to trade, they are going to learn, they write as they learn to write as they are writing. Then in the end, they also look at the process of submission of the grant. That's how we think that we can move this forward, and we think we can reach a big number so that we can get more learners or more early career scientists being taken up there. The other issue also that we need to do, I think, to encourage mentorship is what our African students don't do, is the faculty. We don't know who is where, and because we do not, our universities do not update our profiles. If you look out profiles in African universities, you are going to find that either there are no profiles at all, or someone's profile was updated 10 years ago. So if you have this, then someone and the address is there, the email is there, then I know when someone somewhere looks at this profile, knows there is someone doing what I want to do, then you can identify them. One of the challenges I had when I just started writing grants was to get collaborators. If you look at most of the grants you're applying for, they will not say that you're going to write it alone as an African institution. They will say you need to write from someone from the US, someone from Netherlands, someone from European Union, someone from the UK, depending on the grant you're applying for. So it was very hard to get these collaborators because sometimes you write to them, they don't respond, and you need to have this big team of a network that can introduce you to those different collaborators that you are going to have when you are writing these grants. I think over to you. I have a lot to say, but because of time, I will do. Over to you, Angeline.
Okay, we can always circle back if we have any time remaining. So thank you, Dr. Carter. That was really informative. So I think what I really liked from your response is the practical approach to mentoring and to just helping early career researchers get opportunities. So the newsletter, for example, is such a good idea because you're right, there's 1,000 different grant calls and you can't really keep track of all of those. And also writing resources, but specific to a particular call. I think that's really important as well. So I think in the same lines, Dr. Mbindio, what are some hard and soft skills that you have learned as a mentee, and how do you think they've impacted your career so far? Oh, I think
Thank
you're
you very
muted,
much.
sir.
Yes, I'm unmuting myself. I think one of the things I've learned is dealing with people. I don't know what to call that skill, but I think when you start doing research and dealing with teams and working with people is one of the hardest part actually of doing research, because we are all from different worlds and think differently and all that. So one of the things that I've learned from my mentorship is how to manage research teams. And just being flexible and adaptable also to accommodate everyone who's in your team, because we are all different and we have different key roles to play in our research. The other thing is just listening to people. Most of the time, the PI is always one to do, I mean, you find that they're the leaders, you agree, but also you have a team that is supposed to support you, right? So giving them an opportunity to be themselves and accommodating them in your research, I think that has been very impactful. The other thing has been forming research teams. I think the other hard parts, finding the right people for your team, it's been challenging as well. And I think through my mentorship, especially for my postdoc mentorship that was structured, I was able to gain some skills that really helped me come up with the right people in my team and giving them the tough side of it, where we have timelines, we have this to be done. So giving people terms of reference and ensuring that deadlines are met, timelines are met, and everybody is happy. The other thing is resilience. We work in very tough environments. Most of us work in African systems. So you need resilience to be able to do the work. Otherwise, you'll quit, close your books, and move on with life, right? And go do business or something else. But because sometimes you'll apply a grant and they say no, and you gave it your everything. You probably didn't sleep for many days, and your team didn't sleep, and everybody else. And I think sometimes you get even publication. You send up a paper, you're told these local problems, and you give it your best. Such experiences. The mentorship really offers for me support. Like, it's given a fallback. Like, you have people to talk to, and you're able to talk about it, discuss it, and then identify where the challenges are, and you're able to rise up again. So number one, support, both emotional, professional, and just having your people around you. I think that has been very influential for me when it came to dealing with issues, real issues for research and as an early career.
Thank you so much for that. And I will stay on you. So you have highlighted the positives that you've had from this mentorship, mentorship relationship that you've had as a whole. I don't want to specify anyone because the next question will be a little bit tricky. So I'd really like you to, one, describe what a successful and a healthy mentee-mentor relationship looks like, but also take the flip of that question. What do you think an unsuccessful mentorship relationship would look like as well? Not saying that you've had any, but just from your own personal experience, what would that look like in contrast to the positive, successful relationship?
Okay, so let me start with the positive one, and then I can flip that to the unpositive one. For you to have an impactful mentorship, I think one of the things is you need to have a working relationship. You need to agree to disagree. And I don't want to use a big term, alignment. You have to be aligned in a way with your mentor, because if you're too different, then it will be very difficult to work together. So one of the things is maybe shared values, shared practices in terms of your goals and something like that. Not necessarily in the same field, but also if they understand what you're doing, I think is an added advantage sometimes. So that is number one. Number two, you must have an objective. What is the goal of the mentorship? And that has to be stated out very early and communicated between the mentor to the mentor, because most of the time the mentee have a more responsibility of being more proactive and looking for the mentor, because if you sit back and wait, you may wait forever. So I feel like most of the time we start mentorship very informal, which is still okay, works, but I think more formal mentorship programs work better because they have structure and they also have timelines and expectation, which I think is also part of it. I've done both sides, and I felt like for my postdoctoral program, I had a more structured mentorship. And I feel like the more structured mentorship really helped me, because we used to meet with my mentor every 2 months. And by the time we are meeting, we already know what you're coming to discuss. And that could be something like work-life balance, could be publications, could be talking about grant applications, supervision of students, all that. So I feel like more structured mentorship tend to work better than, that is my personal experience, than the informal ones. The other thing is intentionality, and this falls back to the mentee. Most of our mentors are very busy people, and you're probably not the priority in their brain. So you have to reach out to them and with a plan. Most of the time you reach out with them with a plan. And I feel like when that is done, could end up benefiting the mentor, the mentee more, who is more looking for the help, and the mentor as well accommodating the mentee, because there's structure and there's plan. And then I think the other one is open communication. Just being able to, for both people, being able to be open about exactly the needs, the unique needs that you're needing in your career, and being willingness also to accept feedback, because people tend to be sometimes people can be given feedback, and if it's not positive feedback, then they tend to leave it and go do other things. So I would also say that for it to be successful, then there's need of honest feedback from the mentor and openness in communication, where everybody is allowed to express how they're feeling and the challenges and the unique needs that they need to be addressed. I think those four could help. The flip side of it is, I think, and let's just give an example. Sometimes mentors, especially for programs, mentors can be assigned. You're assigned a mentor, and then you realize you don't not like them. You can't probably work with them. So instead of going ahead and looking for a different mentor, most people just quit that part of it, So an successful one would be like someone who you're not aligned. Let me just use that word. You're not aligned, or you don't agree, or you feel like you're in different paths. Then that would be very difficult for you to align. Or people are so busy for you also. I mean, they also need to create time to meet you, to mentor you. So I feel like you need to look for someone who, and you can have several of them, then as you work along, you'll find who works better for you. You're not supposed to have one mentor. And most of the time we find our supervisors, we make our supervisors mentors, which works perfectly. But also I think it's good to step out of our comfort zone and explore people who have done the works that you're looking to do, and they can mentor us in that space.
Thank you so much. Dr. Kato, same question. What does a positive, healthy mentor-mentee relationship look like? And what does the reverse of that look like for you personally, as a person who's mentored multiple students?
Yes, thank you. I've had both successful and unsuccessful ones. Sometimes the mentorship, the mentee mentorship relationship dies the date is created. Because there are two approaches. There are the structured ones, whereby there is a program like the one we have, the ARSH, then for example the Kata one, whereby they identify a mentee for you, then they pair the two of you. That is one way. But there are also those uninformal ones, whereby someone identifies you and they start looking out for you. I've also had several of those ones which work out better. So ideally, I would say that a successful mentee mentorship relationship is that one that is beneficial to both parties, because it is not only the mentee who is benefiting, but also the mentor has to be having some interest, because without interests, then things cannot work. One of the interests that I would have, for example, I know that if I have a mentee somewhere, for example, if I have Christine at the University of Nairobi, then if also I'm writing a grant and they need a collaborator from the University of Nairobi, then I know that I have Christine. Remember, I was applying for a UKRI grant before. Then I asked Christine, do you have anyone who is in this area here and there? Then immediately within a few minutes, she had already names of potential people that you would bring on board. So that a beneficial aspect from both parties plays a bigger role. Then the other issue is also the issue of being in the related discipline. Of course, it can also work when people are totally indifferent, but I think it works more when you are in related disciplines. For example, if you're in related disciplines, also someone wants to learn more. For example, when Christine came, she was doing these bacteria and microbes in mastitis in cows. And I know I know as a vet, but I never did those ones before. I was more in medical and the microbes, which are different from that. So I said, yes, I want to learn more. How do cows do this? What do they have in their udder? What do they have? If she comes and sequences this, what are we going to find? So those are some of the questions that I was interested in. And also then that's how she came and visited my lab at Makerere. She did some work here. She was more interested in molecular biology to see how things can turn out, things like that. So that interest and the questions here and there bring the two parties together, and then they would find an area that they can match each other. Then the other issue is, of course, for something to be successful, like I said, there should be regular meetings, like I said. Some of them, when one party abandons, another party is too busy, then the mentorship almost dies off. So they have to have time plan, and this is very key when they're planning the journey in the first place, that we are going to meet maybe every after 1 month, every after 2 weeks, something. If you fail to have that when you are going to meet, then the relationship may not work clearly. So they need to meet and have clear timelines to see how they are going to have the meetings and also how they are going to benefit from each other. So the key thing is it has to be mutually beneficial to both parties. Over to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Keto, for that. So I do not want the three of us to monopolize this conversation. So we'll bring in the audience, and Eugenia, if you could show us your face. I would like one to help us with the questions from the chat, but I'd also like the audience here to give Eugenia a round of applause. We're only having this webinar because of her tireless efforts to organize it. So please receive your flowers. So if you could maybe share a couple of questions that have been asked in the chat, and then Dr. Mbindio and Dr. Kato will answer whichever is appropriate to them.
Okay, sure. Give me a minute. Thank you, Angeline. Let's see. There are a couple of questions in the chat. And to begin with, let me just start from the top, just so that we don't miss on any. So there's a question from Enoch who says, APHRC seems to be focused on health-related fields. Do you also offer opportunities for statisticians and data scientists without a health background? Also, why is the ARSH program limited to PhD students and not open to MSc students? Should I read a couple?
Yes, actually. Yeah.
Them to, okay. Then the second one is from Farida. How can I get support or mentorship while I'm not in the Kata program? Then there's another one from Peter. So he says, I need the email of contact person for further inquiry. I'm not sure, Peter, what's with regards to what in terms of your inquiry, but maybe you can clarify that. Then maybe the last one before the panelists can come in. I am Gibson Otieno Gutu from Kenya. I have been awarded a Shivning Scholarship to study MSc Research for International Development at SOAS University of London. I'm looking for a mentor that will shape my journey so that I can excel in my master's and possibly transition to a PhD thereafter. Kindly help.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think I will sort of broaden some of these questions. And in addition to that, I will throw Alpio under the bus a little bit. I believe he is on the call. So in terms of what opportunities are offered at APHRC as a whole for early career and mid-career support, I'd like Alpio to just talk a little bit about the ARSH program and what it does and how you can access those resources. For opportunities at APHRC in general, I would really encourage you to just go on the website. There are newsletters. Any opportunities that are open are also highlighted on the website. The same for Kata. If you could go to the APHRC website and just look up Kata, that's there as well. We can also drop the links in the chat for you. But Alpio, if you're on here, please, in a short moment, just walk us through what ARSH does, how they can access opportunities, why it's important for people who are interested to try and get onto the program. Then I will direct the question on how to get into a mentor-mentee relationship to Dr. Kato. Like if there are a couple of people who say they're interested in getting a mentor, how do they identify a possible mentor? How do they reach out to them? What's that process been from your side? And then for Dr. Mbitio, I guess the same thing. How did you reach out to, I guess since he's here, Dr. Kato, any of your doctoral supervisors, how did you reach out to them and how did you acknowledge that this would be something that would be beneficial to you? And for someone who is starting out and they don't know how to I guess, walk this path for mentorship. Christine, if you could just give a few pointers that worked for you, I think that would be really helpful. But for the sake of time, let us start with Alpio. I'm sorry, I did not use your honorific, but if you're on the call, if you could show us your face, introduce yourself, and just talk about ARSH for a little bit. I'm sorry, Eugenia, is Alpio on the call?
Yes, he should be. Alipio, can you hear us?
Okay, so maybe let's start with Dr. Kato and then Dr. Mbindio, and then we'll circle back to Alpio. So Dr. Kato?
Yes, thank you. I think I saw a question in the chat. Someone was saying that we are using some words, but they are not sure what they mean. There is early career and mid career. Ideally, the definition of these words varies on, first of all, the region you are in, and also depending on your institution where you are. For example, what the expertise that they have. But ideally, early career in highly qualified institutions would mean PhD, after PhD. So it would mean from after your PhD and 5 years after your PhD level. So that's an area where someone has finished a PhD, but they have not won, or they don't have considerable research experience. They have not attracted grants. So that's the early career stage. Then the mid career is that the people have now beyond 5 years after their PhD, but now they have started to attract. They have attracted some funds, but they have not attracted those big grants to. Oh, they are not adding labs, they're not adding teams, they don't have big teams. Because after that, then after the medical, then if you set up your team, you have a big research team, a consortium, there are people under you, you're attracting funds and supporting others, then you become a senior or independent researcher. But also, according to me, for example, in our institution, also the person who is doing an MSc, we take them as early career because they are starting their journey in research and they are going to do a research project that is going to lead on to something, maybe a publication. Then in the end, they'll enroll on a PhD and start to move on. So, Angeline, you asked how we identified the mentees. Yes, there are two approaches that I've observed. The first approach is that they are structured programs for mentorship. For example, I give an example of the Mawazo. Then I gave an example of, for example, even the ARSH and even the Kata program. As most of these, they send out calls and when they are looking for mentors, such that if you are interested, then you put in an application. Because this one also depends that you have a motivation, you are motivated to help others. So when sometimes I see some of these calls, I see, yes, my motivation is to support others, and not only supporting others, because I say this is a learning experience. Once you get someone that you are working with, then this person also connect you to another person. And like I said, one of the biggest challenges that I used to face that is limited network for grant writing. But now, because of these mentorship programs, that I have a big network. If I'm writing a grant for the European Union, then I know someone who will lead me to someone maybe in another university in Europe that can do this and this. Those are one of the benefits. The other way of how the mentees take up their own role, they identify you themselves, You are there, then you get an email that I'm so and so, I'm from this university, I'm from this and this, I've seen your profile. So this one has to be that either you meet, the profile has to be online out there, or maybe you have met in a conference or in a workshop, or even like a webinars like this one. Then someone sends you an email requesting if you can be their mentor and support them through their journey. Because those ones also work out. I've seen that not only the structured mentorship programs work better, but also mentorship whereby someone identifies you on their own and it's not structured to anything, but you work out together. That is also another one that works out better. And that one, the drive comes from the mentee themselves, not from the mentor. So the mentee identifies you, then you see if it is beneficial to you, then that's how you start and you work together. Over to you.
Thank you for that. Dr. Mbengio, how did you go about getting yourself into a mentorship relationship? What were the actions that you took?
Okay, thank you very much. I think for me, I was lucky to be in a structured mentorship through the Kata program that really helped us meet many people, network, and actually themselves started the mentorship programs within the fellows, even from the first year that we entered the program. But besides that, beyond the Kata program, I think being proactive is one of them. Just reaching out for people. Once you identify what is the need you want to be mentored on, or what is the objective of the mentorship, then you can look for potential mentors and reach out to them. I've reached out to people as well, write them an email, say, introduce yourself, reach out to them and just ask them to mentor you on this specific area. It could be a skill, it could be soft skills, something you admire someone and you want it in your career, you can reach out on them and ask them to mentor you. Most of the people are kind. I work with students every day. Some of them just write to me and I mentor them. And I'm sure it's the same for people in my profession. The other thing is just being open-minded and getting out of our comfort zones. Most of the time we want to just work within our familiar environment, and we'll not take up maybe an opportunity outside what is familiar. I think one of the things I would encourage everybody to do is just reach out to people who you'd not ordinarily reach out to them. The least they could say is say no, right? Yeah, and most of the time when people say no, people are polite enough to say, you could work with this other person. They give you suggestion of another person who could be your mentor. And you never know what comes out of that relationship. So I'd encourage people just to be proactive, especially for us mentees. Mentors will unlikely come looking for you for sure. They're busy doing their work. So our responsibility as a mentee then is to look out for someone, be proactive, and then don't work in silos. I think one of the things that kills early careers is working in silos. It's very difficult to rise from that space. So I'd encourage my fellow early careers just to look for people who are like-minded and then now be proactive in that space. Collaborate, network, meet new people in professional setups, and that will really help you grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting that you've both highlighted three things. One is proactivity, right? Like you have to shoot your shot. What's that saying? Closed mouths don't get fed. Like identify a need is the second thing that you've both said. You need to know why you need this mentorship. What are the skill sets that you think you're lacking in? And then you both said something about the importance of structured mentorship programs. So I believe we have Alpio, I think the little technical problem has been solved. So Alpio, could you speak on ARSH, because that is a structured mentorship program, and I think it would be really beneficial to this audience to understand what it is and what are the benefits and how they can access those resources.
Angelina, so I would like to start by thanking Christine and the Charles. They are really providing some mentorship hits here. So I think mentorship is already happening here. So yeah, for the ARSH program, it's a program that it has a structured design of mentorship. So we try to recruit people across Africa. So we have grouped our reach in 3 African regions: East Africa, West and Central Africa, and Southern Africa. So from each region, we recruit about 25 people competitively in the career such as. So we train them for 1 week on grant writing, and then we identify a mentor and we match with them the journey for 1 year. after one of the key deliverables being to be able to submit a grant proposal to an international funder. So that's how it works. We have already covered East Africa and West and Central Africa. So we are now in the process of recruiting our mentees from the Southern Africa region, and we'll be able to launch it in next year, January. So, but I understand that people, I like that the fact that Charles has mentioned that we can also have an structured mentorship. We know that some people, 25 people, it's very little. So, but that's why we have thought about the program has another component where the people who are not able to go through this in-face training or to be accepted into this mentorship, we have it's a grant writing program online, which you can join and be trained, and also have some basic skills on grant writing. And you have the opportunity to network with your peers from the course you take online, because we make sure that you can interact with your peers. And when you complete this course online, we also give you the opportunity to join the community of practice. You never know. That's where you could have your mentor recruited, as Charles mentioned, in an structured way. So we encourage everybody who is attending this webinar to be able to join that course, online course, and also take it. And we never know, you can have people from the community of practice who would be willing to work with you and act as your mentors. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I know I sort of threw you under the bus, very little forewarning, but thank you for your contributions. I'd highly encourage the audience members to please look up ARSH on the APHRC website. Also look up CATA. That's another program that, as I mentioned, offers faculty members in our partner institutions. We support them through their doctoral programs and even after their postdoctoral programs. So please look that up. There are a couple of criteria that you have to meet, but I think it's one of the most comprehensive support initiatives that I've found out there for early career researchers. So look up ARSH, on the APHRC website, look up ARSH, and also look up CATA as well. So we are wrapping up, but I want to throw one last question to Dr. Kato and Dr. Mbindio. One last question, and also after you answer the question, if you could give us your parting shot as far as mentorships go. So I would ask you, how have you personally, outside of your career, outside of you being a researcher, a scientist, a director of whatever, a lecturer, outside of that, how has being a mentor or a mentee impacted you personally? What skills have you learned that have transferred over to other areas of your life that were unexpected? And then after you answer that, go ahead and give us your 30-second parting shot for mentoring and mentorship and the importance of that. So I'll start with Dr. Mbindio, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll summarize this. For me, finding work-life balance. Okay, some working balance. I remember one day I was having a conversation with my mentors, and then I told them, when do I write papers? I think that was my biggest concern, because you're doing all these things. And and then the question was, when do I write papers and when do I go for leave? They're like, just apply for 1 month and go for leave. I mean, nothing, I mean, the institution will be there. Everything that you've been holding on will still be there. And you work better when you relax than when you've worked and burned out. So I think beyond the academic work, I think also on the other side being work-life balance. I mean, just trying to do the things that you're supposed to do. Don't take work home. Easier said than done. When you're supposed to take for your leave, just go for your leave. Nothing will change. You can stagger the month. If you don't want to go for a whole month, then you can do 1 week here, 1 week there, and find the rest that you need, because you also need, and do other activities that also make you become alive. Lead a healthy life. Go to the gym. I mean, unwind. Take a walk. If you live near oceans, go to the beach, all those things. I think I was also mentored through that when I was asking where do I find time to do the things that I'm supposed to do because I'm busy 24 hours. I think my parting shot is mentorship has been so invaluable for my growth. For me, I've been very lucky to find good people who have mentored me, and I would encourage all of us to find a mentor. Just make the step of, do something about it, finding a mentor, especially if you're in early career and a PhD student. I think mentorship is such a valuable thing that you need, and it shortens the journey by half. So please find a mentor, and I'll be here to be the mentor anyway. I'll be mentored, and I'm happy to mentor others. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. I love how you caught yourself on the work-life balance statement. One of my favorite saying is you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. You have to put some of these things. So Dr. Kato, same question to you. How has being a mentor impacted you outside of your professional career? And what's your final parting shot on the mentorship?
Yes, thank you, Angeline. I think, yes, it has impacted me a lot because, like I said, I've also learned from the mentees. Then also remember one of the kata program that you have a program that where you mentor, you put a mentee, then an intermediate mentor, then a senior mentor. So one of them I was an intermediate mentor where I was also learning from the senior mentor. So one of the things that I've learned, of course, that I was also struggling with was work-life balance. You'd have so many of these student grants. There's a time when I had like 6 grants that I was as a PI, co-PI running here and there. Then of course I had to know how to control myself. I said, no, I can't have it all. Sometimes you need to say that this is the limit. Then also the students, sometimes you have so many students are given to you. Then you have to know where the limit is. So some of those are the things that I've been learning from others and other colleagues. Then my parting message is to the early career scientists is that please, we need to, this resource mobilization, it is very key. If you want to progress your career, grants are key. So there are several grants there. And now that even we have AI, you can even search for these grants using AI, that you can identify the grant calls that are active. Please, when you see a call that is within your line, there's a grant you look at and know that this grant is actually advertised for me. So don't let it go. Just go write it and submit. Even if you get a negative response, even for 1 or 2 or 3, whenever you write and submit, then your life never stays the same. You keep on improving and improving and improving, and when you get the grant, then you can also build on that and get more other grants to push you forward. You need the resources to build your career and to move you forward. I've seen their MScs here, the undergraduates here. Even for all of you, the grants do not stop at the grants now are changing. They used to say that the grants are for professors, PhD, but now grants matter on the innovation. If you are an undergrad and you want to do a MSc and you have a good innovation, there is a grant there, write it and you'll get it. What matters is having a good idea and you giving it time. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. So I think we are done for time, but this has been such an informative discussion. I'd like to take time to just shower my guests with appreciation. Thank you so much, Dr. Mbindio, so much, Dr. Kato, for sharing your knowledge and expertise on this topic. I'd also like to thank ARSH for convening this webinar, and to Eugenia for doing the hard legwork of getting this all set up. And to you, the audience, thank you so much for attending, for interacting, for sharing your experience in the chats. If you have any question that wasn't answered or addressed, you can always reach out to us via the APHRC website, email, or ARSH, and we'll do our best to get back to you. So I think in closing, if you are someone who is a little bit more advanced in their career, I highly, highly encourage you to look at being a mentor. You have to reach back for, the ones that are behind us to pull them up. And if you are starting off, you're an early career or mid-career researcher, you're just looking at your PhD or postdoctoral journey, please look at the resources available for you, both at APHRC and elsewhere. I think there's a pool of resources out there that are left untapped because we just don't take the time to look at them. So with that, thank you everyone so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful Friday and coming weekend. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.